We're going to need a plastic base coat if you want to do the top. You're also going to need a base coat for the metal. Once again, I'm using this cover stain by Zinsser. This is some decoupage glue put into a baby food jar. My favorite top coat. This is triple thick, and I did find out from the manufacturers that this is acid free. I don't think it says so on here, but it is. And Martha Stewart makes this coarse glitter that's just fiery. As you see, a bowl of water, some sponge brushes. I'd have about 4 or 5 handy. Small artist's paintbrush, as soft as you can find. We won't be painting though, we will need that. And some plastic wrap, or saran wrap. Oh, one other thing. One of these heavy grit nail files. I think I use these in every one of my videos. And the first thing we want to do is go outside and spray paint the coffee tin and the top. If you want to skip the top, that's no problem. But first, let's go out and spray these and let them dry, okay? Is dip your fingers in water. We're going to separate these edges of the the layers of the napkin. So this is a 3-ply, and I put put both my fingers in the water, dip them in, get them a little tacky, and you may have to press in a couple of spots. Just pull the whole thing away. So I've already torn out some pieces. For this top piece, decoupage glue, and cover the surface where you're going to work. Take an appealing part of the napkin. Make sure you put it on top of where you just glued, and also around the sides. Don't forget those sides. Be very gentle when pressing it down. And take your artist's brush and dip it in the water. And just tap all around where you just placed the napkin with a nice wet brush. You can pull away the edges. And for now, we'll put this top aside to dry. The first thing you want to do is try to put glue just where you're going to put the napkin. My seam is right here. And I'm going to lay the seam down on the seam of the napkin. I'm going to try and be as straight as possible. Again, this is not an exact science. Don't worry too much about it. I'm going to roll it a little bit, but I'm also going to pull the napkin up. So you see where we just put the glue and now the napkin's on here? I'm going to take a piece of saran wrap in order to cover that spot we just did, and I'm going to lay it over top of where we just decoupaged, and I'm going to smooth it out. If you don't use this saran wrap, the napkin tears very easily. So put the saran wrap over it. You get into these ridges. Make sure you get those edges down. And you want to throw away the saran wrap after each use, because it will get tacky and sticky and tear your napkin. And in the meantime, I notice here that, whoops, and I just tore some away there. Any of these tears, we don't have to worry about that at all for right now. We're going to come back to where we left off and repeat the same process. Make sure you throw that saran wrap away so that you don't pick it up. Saran wrap. Before you get this all covered with decoupage glue, you're going to want to eyeball this and tear off an approximate size. And see where I tore over here some of this off? I can either match up the napkin identically with the same pieces of flour that I took off, or I can just put this stripe over here. The napkins are so sheer, it's kind of nice even if you go off a little bit. So I'm going to eyeball that I need about this much of the napkin before you want to know where you're going to put it before you put decoupage glue on there and it gets all sticky and you can't change it. So eyeball it, then put your glue. Careful when you go over where you just worked. Just tap the glue on rather than brush it, okay? Place the napkin over the glued spot. I just accidentally went off the saran wrap and tore a piece of my napkin, but that's okay because I'm going to show you what I do in cases like that anyway. We have a little excess napkin here, so I'm going to tear this away. It'll tear away easily because the glue is holding down the rest of the napkin. Going to take a little water again and just secure this edge. And for these other spots, I'm going to make sure that my hands are dry, not tacky or sticky, and I'm just going to tear some of the roses out and put them in spots where there is nothing or where I tore so that it looks a little bit nicer. Right there, I'm going to add a little decoupage glue. Put it on an angle, just look a little artsy. Lay that down. In this case, again, I'm going to use the wet brush so that the napkin sinks in where I want it to. And I'm going to continue to tear some napkins and just add them in spots like here where it's a little too blank, too bare. I'm just going to add a few little torn roses in these spots. By the way, this will tear away easier if you wet just the rim. This tears away quite easily. Take your nail file and go around the edges and just in one direction. File off any of this stuff that's left over around the bottom. And of course, if you tear anything and you're noticing, like right here, it looks like I've got some spots where the napkin didn't stay. It looks like the paint didn't even stay, really. But I'm going to decoupage over that before this dries anyway, so go ahead around this and do the same thing yourself. Now when you're happy with the way that it looks, it's covered in all the right places. You've covered up any tears, you've gotten these, for the most part, these bottom pieces off. We're going to put this aside to dry also. And don't add any decoupage glue over the surface yet. We want to make sure this is dry so that these napkins don't tear. They're that delicate that if you try to put decoupage glue on them right now, it'll tear. So let's put this aside to dry. I'm going to give it about 20 minutes just on its own to sit over in a dry room. Okay, we'll be right back. Once this base coat is dry, take your decoupage glue and work in small sections, and we'll just put one coat over the whole piece. Now it's time to put the very high gloss top coat on and the glitter. I let the gloss work as a glue with the glitter. And if you'll notice, I put a flyer down or a pamphlet, something larger than the can, so that when you put the glitter on here, the excess that falls off, you can just fold this up and tap it back into the container. And if you ever have trouble opening this, because I do every single time I go to reuse it, I just run it under very hot water, and that loosens the top right up for me. So that's how we look. If you want, you can put some glue around this rim here and put a little glitter there if you'd like. I just leave that blank personally. But how about the rest of that coffee can? Very happy with the way it came out. I hope you like it and you have some inspiration. You can do this with any size can. If you need something to hold your paint brushes in, there's all different sizes of cans out there too. So you could really get crazy with your organizing in pretty containers. And I am Patty Elhoff. Upcycle with Decoupage is the name of my book. I hope you've subscribed by now. I put new videos on every week, sometimes twice a week. And my website is also upcyclewithdecoupage.vpweb.com. That's the name of my website. Contact me if you have any questions. I hope I've been able to inspire you. And in the meantime, have a lot of fun. Thanks. Bye.